Welcome back to the A&E podcast. I'm A.
And I'm E.
Wow.
And I'm E. I had to bring back the energy.
Yeah, no, I dig it. If you tuned into our last episode, we talked about, or I talked about characters speaking to me, especially when you forget things. And they come knocking on your door like, hey, bestie, you forgot about
I
this.
said, Mama.
Let me in. Yes, so we're going to talk a little bit more about that.
So, I guess since you started this time too. So, how do your characters speak to you? And is it different character to character?
Oh, 100%.
Period.
100%. Kind of like I said before, I am just a humble vessel telling their story. I'm putting my fingers to the keyboard and they're talking me through it.
Like a possession?
Yes. The characters for... I'm going to back it all the way up. For my debut, The Devil's Desire,
Which was number 600 Devils to Demons.
I've had enough of you. But that was inspired almost purely by a dream that I had. And so through that dream, I kind of crafted like what I wanted my version of the devil to look like. And then I actually built them first. And then I went back and I like actually made a story and like made a character for the first time, which was kind of crazy. Never done that before. And she had a very clear voice. Avis had a goal. She had an objective. But she also had a lot of religious guilt. And so finding her voice was probably the easiest, I think. And then when it came to what the water gave, my MMC Balaran is so dramatic. I had a hard time, I think, letting him be dramatic and evil. And constantly I was like, how do I make him more evil? How do I up the ante? Because I think that's what he wanted. I loved him so much that I was like, no, nothing you can do is wrong. You can't do anything horrible ever. But no, like he's a fae. Period, point blank. Like, so he's not going to be all good, all sunshine, rainbows, unicorns. And that's also just not who he is. And so I had to constantly like make him darker and make him a little bit more deranged and a little bit more like shadowy and stuff. Versus my FMC for that, I gave her all of my depression unmedicated. She does not get the Zoloft script. So finding her was also relatively easy because mental health struggles.
I have a headcanon.
Sure.
So in book 2, you have a scientist.
Yeah.
She eventually gets that Zoloft.
You know what? Penciling that in.
Period. That's my headcanon. That note on some people talking a little louder. I said last episode that the purse people, that would still just be people, have been talking to me a bit more, and like it's a surprising voice. I also love when you're writing and you are kind of in like a trance or blackout and you add a detail and then go back to read it and you're like, oh, that's a detail. Like, oh, that's gonna be a big part of their personality, and I didn't know that. Like, so for the instance, the purse one, and it's where it is right now, it's relatively short. It's supposed to be relatively short. I'm repeating that for myself more than for you guys. But she ended up being Catholic, and it was just like I had this idea. I think it would fit in this book. Let me throw it in. And then I who like Catholic family but not Catholic myself, was like, hey, can I say this? And what would someone do this? And like was putting too much thought for what was supposed to be like a throwaway like little joke, that I was like, okay, now this is a part of her personality. Now like there's a little bit of, because it's queer as well. It's a bi FMC and then a lesbian purse. And so I was like, okay, well, obviously, unfortunately for you guys, the Catholics, guilt is colored in everything that you do. And so, like, that's a part. You said, say it louder. So that's like a part in this, like, little silly purse thing of, like, her feeling these way. And that's something that this relationship works through. To, like, go back to what we said many episodes ago, it's not, like, the thing that cures her, but it's the thing that, like, aids her in feeling these emotions. And again, this is a silly, like, I'm aware it's a person, a woman. Like, it is silly. It is, like, based off of a joke that came across in the friend group. But, like, those things, like, I didn't know that, and the character told me that while I was writing, and I was like, oh, okay, so now I have to include that. And that was, like, a complimentary good thing. I like this bit of her. I talked before about, like, having to let go of one of my main characters in the Big Whip, and there's 4 of them. And so they all sound so different. And 2 of them I absolutely love to write. They're so easy. One of them, I don't know anything about him until he tells me. He's like, this is what I want. Like, I wanted him to be generic. I mean, you know, generic Shadow Daddy, like, morally gray, dagger to throat. I needed my tropes in this guy. That's what I wanted him for. And he was like, what if, picture this, trauma. What if also I'm in control and, like, in charge of all this stuff that I wasn't prepared for, and I have these responsibilities I don't know how to handle, and I'm doing all this stuff. And, like, I am never writing this character. Well, period. I'm never writing this character knowing what I'm going to write or what he's going to say or what he's going to do, and it's always so, like, rewarding and surprising. On the other hand, the other person who I enjoy writing, which is, I've mentioned their name before, so it's Sebastian, is the himbo, so I get to be fun and silly, and, like, he's very, like, observant, but maybe doesn't always know what to do with those observations, so I get to, like, say things and notice things that other characters wouldn't, but also he doesn't think about them in a way that other characters do, so, like, whereas the other character would be maybe suspicious, he's just like, and that's a thing, crazy, you know, and, like, he doesn't dive too deep, so it's very fun. And then the other 2, because it's 4 POVs, I'm, like, struggling, I'm shoveling, I'm climbing up that hill, we're fighting back and forth, I want you to do this, and they're like, that's not me, though, that's your dream, Dad, that's not mine. And so, like, I'm finally getting to a place where I feel, like, a little bit more comfortable with who they are and also who I need them to be for the story. I guess that's a good question, too. Like, sometimes your characters, I feel like you felt this with this previous book, you need them to be a certain way to get to the story to end, but they don't want to be that way. Yeah. How do you kind of, like, meet in that middle, or, like, what give and take?
I was just talking to an author on Threads about this, actually. Yeah, I was like, I hate it when my characters grow legs and walk away. I hate it when they get, like, autonomy, like, midway through the story, and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Listen here, bucko, I need you to calm down.
I already drafted. Yes, I already know the outline. You can't take a side quest.
I'm gonna let you speak. But having to go back and take one of my characters, which you know this, I had to do a complete, like, re-edit of, like, the entire whip so far, because they were like, hey, I'm not Caucasian, Bessie. And I was like, fuck, you're so right. And so, like, that, like, and a few other things about them changed. Having to change the Pinterest board that I made for them felt like killing a piece of my soul. All of the time that and I'm so happy with everything that it is now. I think he's, like, the best version that he could be, and, like, a fully formed person or whatever. But, those perfectly saved pins, having to let that go was awful.
Yeah. One of the very first versions of book 2, she was actually a barmaid.
Yes, I remember the...
Yes, yep. And not a pharmacologist.
That's gonna be my little AU.
Yeah, she was a bar wench, and the dynamic that she had, and I kind of touched on this the last episode, my, like, father figure was actually the villain. And so, like, her dynamics with all of the characters that I'd already, like, created were, like, completely different than what they are now.
Yeah.
And so she went from this bar wench, uneducated, like, set in kind of medieval times, had no family, like, just kind of on her own, to this educated woman who comes from, like, wealth, who has an attachment to her family, who is very, very smart, but with that coupled with a little bit of anxiety and is in her head most of the time. And so, like, but when she was just the bar wench, you know, I would be writing her and I'm like, I just don't feel like we're connecting.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like we're there yet. And, like, having that conversation with her and, like, doing the character sheets and the, like, 20 questions that you ask your characters, I was like, this is not clicking. We are not, something is not clocking. And then that's when I realized that I was actually writing a completely different person. Like, I wasn't actually writing her. And so, thus, the many drafts.
To find her.
Yes. Also, with my father figure turned used to be villain, now father figure character. He's actually one of my favorites in the book.
Isn't that so funny?
Yes.
Yes.
I crafted him to be so evil, and then when the plot changed and he needed to change, I put that evilness in a different direction, and I made him more of a mad scientist than anything. And I loved writing him. I was like, you're a little freak. You're a little gremlin. I didn't get to have this freedom with him before because I was shoving him into a villain role, and he's frankly not a villain.
Yeah. He's
a fae in that he is mischievous, and he does have, like, alternative morals than what we humans have, but he's not evil by any means. But I was trying to make him evil. And so with this, like, new revitalized role, I was like, oh, you're actually really fun to write, and I enjoy every scene with you.
I love that. I mean, I said before, Sebastian was supposed to die. In the original first draft, he wasn't going to make it past the, like, first third. The Big Whip is, like, a collection, and, like, we get more people throughout, like, book one, and then they're settled and separated and whatever. This is the best I can talk about it without, like, spoiling it. It's just not ready to be shared yet. So he was supposed to die shortly after she meets, like, the second person, or, like, there was supposed to be, like, this big emotional thing in order for her to be able to, like, move on to the second person. But I just loved him so much, and I was like, there's only 2 ways for this to go, and then I went a third way. So originally when I was like, she needs to fall in love with this second person, so either this guy needs to die or she has to, there's got to be a betrayal. And their love was so pure and so, like, sweet that I was like, I can't do that to her. Him dying, she would not move on, and they would never betray each other in this way, because their love story is like, it's honestly friends to lovers. They're friends and family first, and the love is all extra. So now, the first draft that he lived, I was like, okay, why is she so mean to him if this is supposed to be such a pure love? Because I needed that moment of, like, there's a new guy. And I was like, what would make this character, besides fate, because fate is a part of it, but I realize I have trouble, like, with fated mates, I think that's the demisexuality, where I'm like, oh, like, yes, but why also? And, like, what's the pool? And I keep forgetting to write that there's a pool because it's fated stuff. So, like, that kind of thing. And also, because of the nature of the story, the fated stuff is all complicated anyway. But I was like, she's so mean to him. She's snarky. And I like you said with Belle, I didn't want to let her be snarky because in the beginning she was me. And I was like, I'm not going to be mean. But, like, now it's more, like, I understand her snark and her meanness a bit more. And, like, when it can come out and when it won't. And why she's meaner to some characters and things like that. And that it's okay to let her be mean. But also, I was so in love with their love once I decided to let him live that I wasn't letting them have, like, cracks in their foundation. And in order for the story to be, like, fulfilling, because, like, why do we care about this this couple that's already together and is going to end up together? What's the point of reading their, like, love story, you know? And so I was like, okay, well, they have to have some insecurities. There has to be some issues. And that was hard. And letting her not be, like, a perfect, like, ingenue was hard. But especially if she's the only woman that I'm writing at this point in time, at this part of the story, I can't let her not be flawed because that's not realistic. Then she's just, like, a woman that's about to get banged by 3 guys and there's nothing to it, you know?
You know what?
Which, I mean, you know, but if I want this story to be what I want it to be, I have to let her be, like, a whole person. And she has grown so different than me, and we don't handle situations in the same way. So, like, I don't have that like, you know, that connection anymore, but it's different because I feel like I understand her. And her love with Sebastian is more complicated and more complex. So it is very deep, and it is very, like, you are an entrenched part of me that is not questioned. But they've kind of, now it's more like we've taken that for granted and we don't know how to have issues. And so they're, like, learning for the first time how to fight with and for each other while all these other things are happening. And that is such more, like, rewarding than, like, the original thought that I had of, like, and then he dies and then she goes on her, like, you know, whatever, her quest. And also, like, because it is gonna be cross swords, reverse harem, like, there's more people that's involved. Neither of them have fallen in love in a long time because they've just been with each other. So also, like, getting my cake and getting to eat it too, of, like, the characters are in love and they're dealing with this stuff, but they also get to be giddy and, like, fall in love with these other people. And Sebastian is such a himbo. He doesn't recognize, he's like, I love the main character. That's all the feelings I need. So he's not recognizing, he's, like, getting obsessive and like entranced with this other person. It's like, I just happen to be drawing them all the time and want to be around them all the time, and that means nothing because I'm engaged. Like, why would that mean anything? That's crazy. So like that's been fun. And respect my characters for talking back to me, but also I'm like, shut up, don't you change again.
Real. I was genuinely terrified going into this draft that I was like, I swear to God, if you pull something out of your bag that I've never seen before, I will kill both of us.
Yes. I'm like, I remember you, obviously you were still writing, but before you pass it off to me, you were like, I must write quick so they don't change again.
Yes. No.
Like a race against time.
Well, really, it was her that was changing.
But she did make, not to quote, but no one's made such a big jump, a big transition like this. That's a big, like, leap in character.
I know. And it's funny because my MMC has not.
Yeah.
He hasn't been easy, though, I will say. Because he hasn't changed, I had this version of him in my head that was a little bit different than what ended up happening. He was a little bit more stoic than the golden retriever energy that he has now. But for the longest time, he just wasn't speaking to me. Like,
because
period.
He didn't have anything to say.
I mean, yeah. And I realized that's actually true. In a lot of the scenes that I have him in, other people are kind of, like, steering him around so that he can come to his own conclusions. But he's never, like, I guess, taking it upon himself, except for 1 or 2 instances. Yeah. Everything else is, like, because he has a big family, his family is taking charge. Because he has, the FMC is so, like, bold in her opinions, she ends up taking charge. And it's kind of funny because he's supposed to be the knight in shining armor. Like, you would think that he would come in guns blazing, and he's not. But whenever I would, like, turn to him and be like, so tell me about yourself, he'd be like, you already know, bestie. And I'm like, that's not what answer the questions.
Yeah. That's pretty funny. Going back to, like, Defined and Defiled, that was kind of it, too, where, like, I feel like I had such a strong idea of what I wanted to accomplish and who, like, so the main character in that one's named Shirley, and then their partner is Richard. Mind you, I know that these names are heinous. I know that I keep making heinous names, but it's for the bit and for, like, something that works in my brain. And then when I, like, zoom out and I'm like, oh, these are, like, romanceable characters. Listen, I know, okay? Well, let's just not talk about this. But Shirley was a Anne of Green Gables reference for Me and Me Alone, okay? But I knew who she was. I knew what she wanted to accomplish. She also... That's actually a lie, I think. I think I just lied to you. So, before I started writing, when I was drafting, their personalities, their dynamics were going to be different. Richard was supposed to be more of the, like, sunshine. And then she was supposed to be more grumpy. And then I was like, I already did that with Squash. I kept going back and forth. I was like, well, it could be sunshine, like, like, whatever, but... I knew that I wanted them to play, like, a little balance, but one of them was supposed to be 100% and the other one's going to be 100% whatever. And then when I started writing it, she was a little bit more snarky than I intended. And so I was like, oh, she's kind of, this is for first draft, she's kind of a bitch. And I was like, so then he has to be more of a balance. But then when I wrote him, he was also kind of a jerk. And I was like, so there are they grumpy. And then I realized the real trick of it all is their mess for mess.
Period.
So she is snarky. She's professional at work. Hot mess out of work.
Love her.
So if she's not talking to her boss or her other coworkers, then she's, like, very type B. And I have a line that, like, directly referenced that in the book. He is, like, himbo by nature of, like, I'm so excited to talk to a person. But also, like, a bit more... ironically grounded because he can fly, and like a bit more like, okay, like, let's figure this out, or like, what's going on or whatever, where she's more like the chaos. And then what they bond with is like how they are at school. They're both very, like, kind of like, this is kind of going into what you said about characters need to be professional at work. Because it's a school setting, I was like, there will be no shenanigans on the school premises.
Period.
Only mystery and teaching. And so, like, my favorite, like, sweet scenes in that book are, like, they're at the school interacting with the kids. But I did want to make it very clearly, like, not sexual at school. Yeah. And so they are very professional. And they both take education very seriously. Like, the whole premise of the book, the whole reason she found him was because she's getting more school supplies because the school doesn't have the funding for what her classroom needs. Real. Yeah.
Real,
And
yeah.
so that was a surprise, but it felt more, once I figured out, like, oh, you guys are both snarky, you're just not going to fit into the trope. What I'm hearing as we're talking is that, and tell me if you agree, disagree, but, like, we come to this place with the ideas of, like, okay, these are things we've seen before, these are the tropes that my characters are going to fall into, these are, like, these archetypes that I want to capture, and then the characters go, I'm a real boy, actually.
I'm a real boy.
Because that's what I'm hearing is, we're like, I want this, and they're like, okay, but what if I'm a fully fledged individual?
Yeah.
It's rewarding and hard.
I feel like between the two of us, you do give your characters more autonomy.
That's what I've been told.
Yeah, because mine don't necessarily say, oh, love that, that's not what we're doing. More so like all right, I'll take this as a suggestion. And I try to work it in the best I can, and then, they have other plans. But I feel like yours look at it and go, this is garbage, mother, and then they do whatever they want.
Yeah. The mother of it all is so funny, because I do feel like these are my children, and, like, I'm having to relax a little bit. I think also, we talked about this before when we talked about favorite tropes. Yeah, favorite tropes. Where I read a lot, and so I know what I don't want, and I know what I do, and that's kind of where I come into this, where I'm like, I want something that gives me the same feeling that this book did, or, like, I don't want, like, with doing reverse harem and also reading reverse harem, one of the things that stresses me out the most is lack of communication, because it's a very thin line between poly and cheating in these stories. So, like, I knew, like, okay, these characters have to communicate. But if my characters are two people that don't want to communicate, like, those are the things where I'm like, I can't, like, you guys have to do this.
Yeah.
You have to talk to each other. I don't care if it's uncomfortable. You guys cannot have a miscommunication trope every other chapter but this one. You need to talk about this.
Yeah.
And then, like, for, like, the Hornicopia, there's certain beats that I want to hit, and even if these characters don't want to hit that, I'm like, okay, we have to have this conversation, or we have to have this reference, or we have to do this. You can have the rest of the chapter to fuck around and find out if you want. So I think because I'm already so, like, loosely drafted, that's why they have this room. Like, if I'm being honest, you know, that's why they have this room to play. And sometimes it frustrates me because I'm like, okay, well, now that changes, this has implications that I didn't intend for. Now that changes the draft. But sometimes it is like with the nature of the big whip. Sometimes it's surprising and sometimes it's frustrating. The two characters that are super easy, I don't think about at all. And, like, they just run free and, like, it's fine. Because nothing that they've done is going to change where they end up. It just makes, like, their journey a bit more nuanced. The problem with the female main character and the other main character that's harder is, like, the other characters' implications matter more later in the story. These characters matter a lot right now. Like, everything that they do is going to change the nature of how this plays out in the next couple chapters.
Change the trajectory of everyone's life.
Well, because the other two characters are in their fuck around chapters, where, like, yes, they're doing things that, like, push the plot along, but they're more, like, in their character study. Whereas the two that I'm struggling with are, like, active plot people, where, like, the next big plot point is directly going to be related to, like, the things that they're setting up right now. So they're the ones that are, like, exposition. Exposition without it sounding exposition. That's what they're doing right now. So when I can't even get, like, the grasp of, like, who they are, I can't then set up, like, the villain has been, like, waiting on the edges of this story for, I mean, honestly, 2 years, but for months specifically, I'm at the point where, like, I need to introduce them next. Like, they are the next big thing that happens. But I simply can't because these characters did not want to behave. Those kind of things. I'm like, okay, I have to introduce them, Bessie. I don't care if you're not ready. Like, we'll just get you to that point and then, like, whatever. But,
I mean, is everyone ready for the villain when they come? I mean,
no.
So, period.
But, I meant there's a lot of things that will have payoff much later that I needed to introduce now for that arc. And they're like, but what if I'm not in that room? And I'm like, but what if you are right now? And I don't care. And so I'm kind of like, I've been stuck with these characters in the same room for, like, months. And I need to get them out of there so I can introduce the villain, who, you know, for plot reasons, is also nuanced or whatever. I'm really excited to write them for now. Yeah. Unless they change. by the time they're on paper. So
a very likely thing to happen.
very likely thing to happen, but I hope not.
So yeah, as an author, I hate it when your characters decide to fuck off.
I will say, and this is like my little ending thing, I guess. I, before this is in today, was writing another chapter for a fanfic of a fandom which I won't name, but if you know, you'll probably get it. And the character that I was writing, in all of the drafts except for the one that we got recently, was supposed to die. And I'm thinking about that with, like, my character. Quit laughing at me. I'm being so, like, serious and vulnerable right now. And I think about that, and I think about how, like, the universe that we're in is the only universe that they got to live, and how that has completely changed, and how, like, this author was influenced by, like, the years after it came out and everything that changed. And that kind of, like, it's just opened up so many trajectories for this world that they've built, and it's the same thing for my characters. When I'm getting too attached to a version of the character that I want to keep, but I can't, because of that's not where the story's flowing, I've been telling myself, like, this is just this one draft where they live or where they do this thing. All of the other worlds still get to exist in my head. Like, I still get to have them. Now, this author can keep all of the drafts where that character died, because I love this character so much. But there's all these other worlds where that didn't happen, that only, like, she has access to. And we, yes, have chapters and other things that allude to that having been the case, that have now been, like, retcon. But, like, I don't know. I guess that's what has been keeping me a little bit sane. It's like, these other versions don't stop existing. They're just in the multiverse.
Yeah. I was only laughing because I know how feral over this series you are.
I'm actually being so calm and chill, actually.
Yeah, but there's an evil twinkle in your eye that y'all can't see.
Well,
she's, like, gnawing at the bars of her enclosure behind this facade, and she's like, I think you could make an entire podcast episode about this. You could write a dissertation.
Oh, absolutely. I have another fanfic that I want to write that is this character talking to the author about the fact that they were never supposed to exist. But then I felt like this is too, like, detrimental to the author.
The fandom couldn't get a hold of that.
Oh.
People would go insane.
Yeah. I was going insane writing it, so I shelved it, because I was like, this is crazy. But then someone reposted a tweet by the author talking about, like, the character in that way. Like, the actual author was saying something like that. And I was like, so maybe this fic could exist. But it will devastate me, and I will cry.
You know, I pray as an author that this energy both misses me and also hits me with the bus.
Yeah, hits you dead on.
Because if as an author I had a fan base that was as mean as y'all.
We're not mean. We're feral. It's different.
I
love her.
I know you do, but also like a I love her, and you've got a knife behind your back at any given moment.
I think we said this before. I think the ultimate goal, and I thought this again today, is, like, I want fan art of my characters that are like not commissioned by me, that someone just felt it in their soul, like, oh, this, like, we have been kind of slightly really mature and cool about, like, Bat Fam, but I've been getting, and specifically Super Bat, but I've been getting a lot of, like, draw this. Like, oh, I want to draw this picture in whatever, which always exists, but I'm just saying I'm getting it a lot specifically right now. I would love that, for someone to see, like, a random picture of a guy and be like, I need to draw this character in that style. That is the goal.
Batman. Nightwing.
Oh, yeah.
Well, honestly, it's more Jason Todd. And I know you don't feel the same way.
Yeah, no.
I know it's Nightwing and Damian for you, but
absolutely. Which I think
I just like a
sense.
really sad wet dog, you know. Love him though.
In the most respectful way.
Most respectful way.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
On that note.
Well, no, listen. We ended it. We talked about characters and how they get away from us, and then we ended on our favorite.
We ended on characters getting away from us. Isn't that so silly?
Yes!
Well, that being said, that has been A, and I'm E. Bye.
Bye.